who are with us today. First, we have Gauri Sarinji. Gauri ji is a graduate from XLRI. After working in corporate sector for more than 2 decades, she decided to charter a new life with an eclectic mix of spiritual grounding in art of living, urban governance, and sustainable living. She's a founder of Approach International, Making Model Gurugram, and Living Without Medicine. Inspired by Sri Sri, she is currently Art of Living faculty. And joining us as well is Sonak Chakrabarti. Sonak ji is a practitioner and teacher of mindfulness and compassion, and an alumnus of Stanford University's Compassion Program. He's also the co-founder of Hi Happy Monk, a startup focused on empowering organizations through OD, learning, and leadership development initiatives. We also have with us Anil Sachdev ji, who is an eminent Indian leadership educator, talent management strategist, and organizational transformation expert. He is the founder and chairman of the Soil Institute of the School of Inspired Leadership, that is Soil, and the founder and CEO of Growth Talent Company. It is great to have you all here. We are really looking forward to the insights you will be sharing throughout the session. Now, I would like to invite my co host, Gauriji, to help us navigate through this conversation.
Yeah,
Over to
before
you.
that, as I had mentioned, I like to make some opening comments as I had
Yeah,
requested.
sure, sure.
So, by opening comments, I first of all want to thank each one of the people who have been part of this journey. When we started 15 weeks back, we started this unique series. And we began by looking at what's the story we tell ourselves about our own lives. If the story we say is empowering, we lead our life in that particular way. If the words that we use to describe our life is limiting, then that's what we get. Then we said in the second session, we said that leadership is not about leading others, it's about leading yourself. And we looked at the 5 dimensions of leading the body, leading the breath, leading the mind, leading the intellect, leading the ego. And then we said inner transformation is to find the power from the inner witness within each one of us. So that was in this. And then as we continued the journey, we looked at leadership of the breath, where we take a pause as we get stimulus from the environment. How do we take a pause before we respond rather than react? And we need to be conscious of the biases that we have, and we need to honor how to create that understanding with people. From there, we move to understanding how do we lead our own emotions? How do we generate positive emotions? And how do we build a sense of community around us so we can share things that bother us and which hold us back, our dark side? From there, we went to looking at how to use the power of thinking in the right way, how to make important choices, how to make the right decisions. And we said in order to do that, then we moved to saying we need to be far more creative, and we explored creativity. And then we said all of us are potentially creative, but what holds us back is our fears. So, how do we recognize fears and overcome them? And then we said, it's if in order to do that, we have to really treasure the values and derive strength from our values, which then give us the power of defining our own purpose and helping us to sublimate our ego towards something bigger than ourselves. And then we said, in our journey towards purpose, what are the ways in which we could begin to change our own journey, our own habits, our own current ways of being, so that we could transform ourselves? And then we said, okay, when we begin the transformation journey, begin to change our habits, what could still hold us back? And we discussed the immunity to change. And then we move to the next dimension. Okay, with all this, we need to really learn how to overcome immunity and how to access that inner witness within. And therefore, in the last session, we covered learning how to learn. And today is the final beautiful session to say all this was about leading are different dimensions. But today we have to learn to surrender to that inner power, that pure awareness within each one of us. And that's the beautiful topic that we are inspired to explore today. So I thought I'll just mention the journey over these sessions. So now I'm sure Gauri has something very worthwhile to make her opening comments, and she will take us through her opening comments and journey. So welcome, Gauri.
Thank you so much. Such a privilege to be having this conversation with you, Anilji. Someone I've admired, somebody who has inspired me and several, across at least two or three generations. 20 years ago, when I was finding my own business very difficult to handle, I turned to a program to really help me. The program was understood to be around managing stress and leading a joyful existence. There was no reference to the word spirituality. But as I look back, it became my source of energy, purpose, and connection to myself. So today, as we explored this, Anil, with you, I have a small quotation to share, which is really part of this journey too. If you take even one small step with this realization, I have nothing, I am nothing, you will become the happiest person on this planet. Because when the sense of ownership and ego dissolve, everything naturally comes to you. Now, this doesn't mean you sit idle and daydream saying, I'll do nothing because I am nothing. No, Gurudev, she says, be nothing but do everything. The mind is clever. It can twist even the highest knowledge for its own convenience. But when you truly let go and rest in I am nothing, you operate from the deepest freedom, doing everything with joy, yet untouched by anything. My question to you, Anil, is in the context of this quotation, what has been your journey, starting with the early tryst, and in the context of the work which you have done with yourself as well as several leaders across these two or three generations? Really look forward to some understanding of different dimensions here.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Gauri. What a beautiful quote. Nothing is no thing. Well, most of us, we have an identity around our body, which is a thing, which is matter. We have identification with our own emotions, which is also matter, but subtle matter. Or we have identification with our own thoughts, which is also matter, although it's the subtlest form of matter. So these are all things. Body, mind, intellect are all things. But no thing is beyond these, beyond matter. And you said that finding that joy is when, and the ego, unfortunately, keeps us attached to doership through body, mind, and intellect. So, all the achievements at the body level, mind level, intellect level, we get fond of those achievements and we start believing the body starts thinking, look how strong I am and what I have done. Look at my energy. Look at my emotions and the way I can create networks and relationships. Or look at the power of my thought. The moment I am identifying with these equipment and and I'm defining myself as these equipment, I am denying myself the most beautiful truth, which is that the power I derive is from that pure consciousness within. When I shine the light of consciousness on the body becomes capable of doing things. When the shine of consciousness is there on the emotions, they get the capacity to emote, and so also the thoughts. So the energy comes from that beautiful source within every human being. We can call it life giving force, we can call it consciousness, we can give it divinity. But that is always there in us. We get lost in playing with our equipment and we get delusional because we get all excited about playing with our equipment. But the moment we have that realization that not only was I misapprehending what the reality was all about, I was also having the non-apprehension of the real power. So it was not just misapprehension, it was non-apprehension of really who I really am, which is that beautiful energy which J. Krishnamurti would call choiceless awareness. Hmm? The choiceless awareness is that life giving force, that energy, that ever present witness, which is the one which gives power to everything. But all our life, we keep on playing around with the equipment and we are fascinated by that, and we do not actually take the time to really access that source, which means by quietening the other equipment. And even for moments when we quieten, we are able to achieve that inner silence, which is most beautiful, which is so peaceful, which is so happy. Some people induce the same feeling, like my friend Visti Banaji on this call loves listening to Western classical music. Hmm? Some of us are very fond of music, some of us are very fond of dance, some of us are fond of poetry, some of us are fond of nature. But all those are enablements for us to be silent and just be joyful and happy, because that is our true nature. But because we do not access that true nature, we keep on searching for happiness in all other experiences. So let me just, and you asked me, how did it start in my life? I was very fortunate to be born to my parents. My mother became a meditator at the age of 9, and she was a student of Maharaj Savan Singh Ji, the original thinker behind Radha Swami Satsang. And she married my father, and my father had deeply spiritual parents, but he himself was more a person in the outer world till he met Swami Chinmayananda when I was 5 years old. And thanks to that, a whole new world was revealed to him. And then, of course, the beautiful partnership between my parents at a very young age provided us this space in which we were are taught the most valuable aspects of life. And one of the early lessons from my childhood given to us was the most valuable thing in life is not a thing. It is, in fact, that beautiful inner power that is there. So, as children, we were just fascinated by the concept that there is something higher in us. Didn't know what it was, but as we got older, we began to understand how to source that through the process of contemplation and meditation. So that's how it started in my life. And of course, very, very deeply grateful about our Master Swami Chinmayananda and his influence in our life. So let me just take a pause there. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gauri, any more questions? Then we'll move to, or we request Sonakji to take this
I think
conversation.
I can come in later.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Over to you, Sonakji.
Thank you. I would say good evening all and greetings from Dharamshala. And thank you, Dr. Chitra, for nice introductions. And my humble gratitude to Anilji and Team Soil for the opportunity to co-hosting this session. So after this inspiring conversation between Gauriji and Anilji, I would like to go back to a little bit of technicalities of mindfulness. The concept of mindfulness traces its roots to the teachings of Lord Buddha and dating back nearly 2,500 years back. And today, the most widely accepted definitions stem from the Western interpretations, the way the Westerner have interpreted mindfulness, though the source is India. So, Anilji, therefore, I am keen to explore how mindfulness is understood within the Indian spiritual tradition, particularly through the perspective of Vedantic philosophy.
So, in Vedant, the whole aspect of Vedant, the essence of that is that this beautiful energy is there within each one of us, which we call Brahman, which we call the truth. And we are told that that Atman, which is the soul that the Westerners refer to as soul, which is there in every being, is nothing but Brahman himself, which means Or another language uses the Jiva and Ishvara. Jiva is the being, and Ishvara is the creator. But what Vedanta says is that each human being has the same energy within, which is in fact the entire creator of the universe. Because we get limited and conditioned by time and space, we keep on thinking that we are limited because the ego is the biggest imposter. It keeps telling us that we are limited. Unfortunately, we are so much fascinated by everything to do with matter and ego, as I mentioned earlier, that we are not able to escape from the prison of that. So Vedanta simply says the whole journey is towards silence. And therefore the path recommended is contemplation. And contemplation leads to, so in Vedanta we say contemplation is a verb and meditation is a noun. Meditation is a state you reach when you are on the path of contemplation. To make it very simple for people, the nearest term that we all would be using, and for example, many people in business are there, the ability to reflect and contemplate. Many times it is taught as an important part of emotional intelligence, what we call self-awareness, which is the ability to observe your own thoughts, your own emotions, and your own actions. Some people, the psychologists refer to it as an out-of-body experience, that you could witness your own body, you can witness your own emotions and intellect by watching the way your own mind is functioning. And Buddha, when he talked about mindfulness, and in the Buddhism, the concept of shunya, which is complete silence. And therefore, before that, in order to train the mind towards silence, there is the whole japa and the mantras and chanting, including Buddhists have this deep chanting which goes on. But the whole purpose of the chanting and the mantras is to ultimately silence the mind, not by trying to control it, not through things like concentration. So the props initially which are given, which is, for example, that you should sit in an erect posture, that you should sit on a comfortable spot, that you should observe your breath, that you should focus on maybe one part of your inner light. All those are props. Ultimately, the path of contemplation is to be able to really quieten down, and all those technology that is taught, including the Western psychology of doing body scan, deep breathing, observing all that, is ultimately to reach a state where you are completely at peace. So even when we do the deep chanting, for example, of Om, that the first sound of Om is Ah. Ah, conscious level. So peace to the body and the senses. Then U. U is at the subconscious level, which is at the emotion and mind level. Then the deep Ma, which is at the unconscious, deep intellect level, which is the deep sleep. So we also say from the awaker to the dreamer to the deep sleeper. But all these we want to silence because we want to silence the waker and its senses. We want to calm down the emotional mind and the subconscious aspects. We bring peace to that. And we also want to silence that identity of the deep sleeper, which is that we have some deep, in a psychologist terms, cognitive level, subconscious level, and the unconscious level. We want to bring all those stimuli to silence. So we chant Om so that at the three levels we bring about peace. And when we reach that state, after the space that we reach after chanting, is that deep space of relaxation, deep space of no consciousness of the body, mind, or intellect. And of course, this is a journey. That's what we call sadhana. And the whole journey of sadhana is to learn how to source that, how to quieten down, And of course, there are different paths recommended. For example, for those who are more active, the path of Karma Yoga. So, selfless action, do your best for the sake of, and leave everything to, leave the rest to the power within. So, do your best and leave the rest. And for those who are more emotionally natured, for them the path of bhakti is recommended. And then for those who are much more intellectually inclined, who want to understand what is this energy, where does it come from, what is the purpose of life, so for them the path of studying the scriptures is recommended in dialogue so that we can access that. So this is how Vedanta looks at this subject, and this is just in a few words what I thought I'll respond to the question you asked. Anil?
Thank you, Anilji. Very profound.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anilji, for sharing your ideas regarding connecting with your inner source, energy source, to so as to guide your intellect, emotions, and thoughts. Anilji, drawing from your rich coaching experience, if you could shed some light on what are some of the most significant organizational changes you have seen as a result of adopting mindful leadership practices.
So, let me give an example of my friend Gopal Vittal of Airtel. When Airtel was completely challenged by, the big gorilla in the space, which is when Jio entered the market, I just was very surprised at the calmness with which Gopal and his team took up the challenge. They were not daunted by the task at all, but there was an inner sense of, and I told Gopal after interviewing him and all his colleagues, because we were doing work with him and we were doing these discovery calls. I said, this is quite amazing. There is people in the media are in a state of panic. People outside are saying you should be in panic. But I see this very deep inner confidence and calmness in you and your team. Where is that coming from? So he then attributed to his education and to his education in Rishi Valley and to how J. Krishnamurti's foundation on education. For those interested, you should read a very beautiful book written by J. Krishnamurti. It's called On Education. So I think Krishnamurti's whole philosophy, which trained these young people at a very young age to say that really you must source awareness, you must learn the power, and you must become an observer of your own mind. So young children are in J. Krishnamurti School in Rishi Valley and other Krishnamurti Foundation School. They are sent out to just sit under the tree and simply observe what's happening. There are many beautiful exercises which they are taught. So I think in Gopal's life, I saw a person who is very inspired by that, and therefore I did not see him anytime. I have seen many CEOs getting very challenged and upset and becoming very concerned and in a state of panic in the kind of situation they face. But this was a very beautiful transformation I saw. Let me give you another example. My own mentor, Mr. Vikram Lal of Aisha, is probably the nearest that I would call as Gandhi in business. Very deeply values driven person. And when he was a young man, he used to get his family used to receive these letters from some saints in the Himalayas. There was no forwarding address, so he would never know why these letters were coming to his family, but they would come to him and his family, where they would receive inner guidance on how to lead a more purposeful life. So, for example, one of the most beautiful comments once earlier in this series, I quoted this example of Mr. Vikram Lal. When I was a young, very impressionable, age, I was 23 and a half when he hired me to head HR in the corporate office. He would spend several hours with this young man, which was me. And in that dialogue he would host with me was quite profound. One day he spoke to me almost an hour on this theme on भाव और भावना के बीच अंतर नहीं होना चाहिए. in Hindi. That means the highest integrity happens when what you deeply value and care for and what you portray through your actions are completely aligned. And he said that, he always asked this question to us. I mean, there's so many examples I experienced in his presence. One time the tractors were in short supply and every competitor of Eicher was increasing prices. And he called a meeting of all the senior managers to say, how many of you feel we should also increase prices? So some hands went up. So in fact, not some hands went up, most hands went up. Because that's what competition was doing. Then he said, what do you think is a fair profit? Why should we increase prices just because everyone else is doing it? I mean, it had such a profound impact on me that here was a person from the world of business. Then he would ask questions to us in HR. What is the minimum wage prescribed by government? And then the contract labor that we were keeping for some, housekeeping services and other such job. He would say, how much are we paying these people? We said, this is what the prescribed minimum wage is. He said, what would happen if we pay more than the minimum wage? Then he would ask questions like, how do we know how much pollution we are causing through our factories? What are the government standards? Then he would ask, what would happen if our standards are stricter than the government? So I think he is quite a unique person. And recently I wanted to meet him on his birthday. He's now 83 years old. And a few years back, I said, Vikram, I want to come and meet you on his birthday. So he's told me, Anil, for many years now, I go into silence, I go into Vipassana a few days before my birthday. And I'm sorry I don't celebrate my birthdays because my earnest attempt in life is to say whatever little remains of ego should also be now. That's the only thing I have in my life that in the rest of my life in this planet, can I find a way to completely go beyond the ego? So these are two very simple examples that I gave you, but there are so many other leaders I've been fortunate to work with, which I've talked about. And, no wonder that Aisha has produced so many talented leaders who even today have a sense of community and bonds with each other, and they go out of the way to help each other only because we had this shared values and we really believed in this highest in us, which we experienced through the founder and then through everything that we co-created around what we experienced in his presence. So these are two specific examples I like to talk about.
Yeah, right. Gauriji, any more galvanizing thoughts you have?
Yes. So, one of the things which I find leaders, you talked about two excellent examples from your experience, Anil. But across the world, we come across people, extraordinary people who've done extraordinary feats in terms of manifestation. And what is always left with the young generation of leaders or upcoming leaders or startups, or people who really have dreams for the future, is that what is it which helps them to manifest what seems to be almost the impossible? In your experience, what is it? What is that thing which seems to be common among these leaders, which has helped them manifest extraordinary things?
I like to take specific examples here. Now, many years back, I met a man called Nipun Mehta. Nipun was a young Berkeley graduate, and he's experienced something from a young age that his parents in Santa Clara in California, where they live, every Wednesday they would host a circle, and 70 to 80 people of strangers would show up in their beautiful home. They would cook for them. And in the circle, which lasted for several hours, they would personally feed these people with great joy without knowing any one of them. They would encourage them to share what has brought them to this circle of sharing. And then they would encourage them to sit in silence and practice meditation, contemplation. No, Nipun was very inspired by this part of his family. And from a young age, he and some of his friends from Berkeley, and that was a time when they graduated. The .com was, everybody was creating a .com. But they decided that instead of getting into the .com craze, they decided to start building websites for social organizations and NGOs free of charge. They said that, this is the early days of internet. NGOs don't have access to this. We Berkeley graduates have access. So why don't we start building websites for free? And the happiness that Nipun got and his friends got out of it was so much. And fortunately for Nipun, as far as getting food on the table is concerned, was not an issue because his family was able to provide that. So they chose, instead of joining the Silicon Valley, startups, they started creating something called service space. They came out with a whole, if you visit the website of Service Space, you will realize they have three principles. A, they don't do any fundraising. They don't ask for donations. Secondly, they don't employ a single person. Everybody is a volunteer. Third, they believe in engaging in small acts of kindness. So it's become a worldwide movement. 1 million volunteers worldwide. For example, a few years back, Nipun called me to attend something called Gandhi 4.0, a retreat in the Gandhi ashram in Ahmedabad. And there were 40 people. I was there, and we had Shaheen Mistry, the Teach for India founder, and there were 2-3 of us Indians. And rest were Gary Zukav, the man who wrote that The Dance with the Woolly Masters was there. Jerry White, the Nobel laureate, was there, and several other such people. But not the celebrities who were in that group. I was fascinated by 30 young TCS people and a couple of newly graduated Stanford graduates. These people had taken a month off from their schedule to volunteer seva for organizing and hosting this retreat. Those 30 TCS people lived in Ahmedabad in the same building. And they were all volunteers of this organization. And I was just fascinated. They do things like Karma kitchens all over the world, right? The first restaurant in Karma kitchen started in California. So at the end of a nice meal, which is all cooked by volunteers and served by volunteers, it's a very nice restaurant, the bill says 00. So you can pay whatever you like and pay it forward. In fact, one time, one person acted like he played a trick with the person who was serving him. He gave him $100 bill and said, "Will you return what you think is fair?" So this person who was a Silicon Valley person who was serving, he got confused. He said, "Should I actually calculate how many mango lassis he's had or how much food he has had?" But then he got the idea. He gave him his $100 back and took $20 out of his own pocket and gave him and say, "Here is your change." In that moment, both of them got the joy of what giving was all about, right? And he understood. Now there are karma kitchens running all over the world, right? So random acts of kindness. So I think this is a beautiful example of Nipun and his organization, very deeply spiritual, but a very practical way of expression of spirituality by serving others. That the way to really access the spiritual part of you is to engage in compassion and kindness, not because you want to be famous, not because Nipun Mehta should be recognized as a person like that. If you meet him, it's all about the process, not about him. And of course, so I think this is a very beautiful example. Similarly, if you look at Ela Bhatt and the Seva organization and all the women of, we started in Gujarat and spread all over the world, that power of self-employed women of association, Seva, it's a very similar concept. And how do you come together out of a genuine need to serve and create that space? So I think these are experiments which at very young age, many people are attracted to because The amount of young volunteers I have seen and I have seen in Art of Living as well. I have seen the youth program of Chinmay Mission. I have seen the youth program of the Aurobindo Mission. So, in fact, when I first went to Japan, and I'll stop after saying this, in the 1980s, I had gone and spent a few months there. When I would visit the Zen temple, I would find many senior and older people there. In my recent visits to the same Zen temple, I find 90% are very young people, and many of them are entrepreneurs. It's quite fascinating that the younger people, even in Japan, are turning towards this inner journey a lot more. And many of them are innovators, many of them are entrepreneurs because they are also accessing, they are finding that when they source that cause that they want to serve in their life and deeply love what they are going to serve, some extra innovation seems to happen in them. Extra energy seems to happen in them. That means my finest definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who deeply loves a cause that is going to make the world better and gets completely lost in serving that cause. And because of that, extraordinary innovation happens. A lot of people come to serve, a lot of people come to support. And even in economic success, such entrepreneurs become successful. So, and they indeed become sustainable. So let me just stop here. But I just thought I'll mention this in response to the question you asked, Anil. Yeah.
Fantastic. Absolutely eye-opening. And I think my nephew is here and he's just about on the same path in the US. So I hope he's getting inspired.
Oh, thank you. I have much more faith in the younger people in the planet than some of us who have become older, who become more, who keep telling the young people, you cannot do this, this will not work. I think the best we can do as older people is to give oxygen to the dreams of the young people. That's what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, Sonicji.
Yeah.
Yes, Anilji, taking clue from you, I remember a nice quote which used to inspire all of us by Swami Chinmayananda, that youth are not useless, they are useless. Youth are not careless, they are caredless. And taking clues from your inspiring real life stories, I have again a question that, so how this essence of spiritual teachings we can apply in leadership, because you define leadership as leading self. So more specifically, so how we can apply some of these teachings in managing ourselves, managing our work, and managing our relationship. That is very vital when we work with people and team. So three things: self, work, relationship.
I'll give what Gurudev would have said. Gurudev is referred to as Sri Ravi Shankar, also Swami Chinmayananda, also Rabindranath Tagore. What Gurudev would have said in response to this question is detach and attach. What is meant? Detach from the lower body-mind identification and attach to the higher, which is the Guru within you, but in a very practical way. Let's say, as far as work is concerned, learn to be fully present in whatever we do. If you're talking to somebody, for that moment, be fully present. Don't be distracted. Just be fully present. When you're thinking about solving a problem, think only about that. When you're trying to improve a process, focus on that. That means if you are fully present and if you learn to be immersed in work and find work as a way of fulfillment, you will do your best work. And always dedicate what you're doing to the higher, which means I am doing this work so as to serve. I have a sense of purpose behind my work. Because if I don't have a sense of purpose, and if I am only using work as a means of livelihood, then I will never be at my best. But when I always connect my work, no matter whatever I do, it may be just cleaning the floor. But if I am cleaning the floor because I am part of, I believe, serving a purpose, then I will clean the floor in the best possible way. So that is as far as work is concerned. As far as relationships are concerned, see, we have very limited time in this world. So the least we can do is offer a smile to somebody whom you meet. Appreciate the goodness that you see in others and learn to thank people for what they do in your life. If your relationships are based on these principles, observe the positive in others, notice small things, find a way of expressing that to the people around you, and be very mindful of the harsh words that you speak. You may say, I'm a very frank person, I just say it the way it is. I don't mind. I have the courage to tell anybody anything. That's okay. Even if there is a fault in others, somebody that you have noticed, what is the purpose by your giving feedback to the other person's fault? Instead, you can give the gift of a thoughtful question. Instead of putting down somebody, you can leave the person with a thoughtful question. Maybe that person will think more about it rather than you tell on that person's face what the person is not doing right. So the gift of a question is far more important than giving harsh criticism, because that doesn't help people. And I think that's not something that because see, people as it is are going through their own journeys. When people appear to be, let's say, doing things in your assessment which are not right, who knows what they are going through in their life at that time? And so by your acting harshly, it doesn't serve any purpose. So I think that's as far as relationships are concerned. So this will work in relationship. As far as yourself is concerned, it's very important. It's in a way, it's like doing all the 13 sessions we have done so far. But simple things. Every day, have sound sleep. Try to sleep several hours before midnight rather than after midnight or close to midnight. Eat only as much as you can get in your hand at one time. This much. I think in Art of Living also they say just so much which will fit into your hand. Only that much. Try to eat before sunset. Try to have enough gap between eating and doing. And maintain some healthy schedule of exercise for the body, whether it's yoga practice, pranayama, walk, whatever you want to do for the body. At the breath level, always be conscious of understanding others through deeper listening, paying attention to what people are trying to say. At the mind level, I've already talked about emotions earlier and relationships, but also find a way to get rid of the negative emotions building in your own mind, especially the expectation you have from people you care for. You keep feeling hurt that, my spouse didn't give me attention, my colleagues did not give me attention. Now, instead of doing all that, if you can find a way to overcome this by maybe sharing it with a mentor, finding a way to get your heart released from the negative emotion, then be very playful. Today I was reading this book by my Japanese friend. This book teaches us how to be a good sports person, martial artist. And it was saying how you should have a beginner's mind and the curiosity of the child. So to become the best in martial arts, when you're doing practice with a beginner's mind. Every day practice is like a beginner's mind. Don't allow thoughts to come that I already know something. If in your practice you start thinking you're already very competent, that will stop you from practicing with an open heart. So be a curious learner. Try to surround yourself with creative aspects. Learn from the liberal arts, learn from music, learn from philosophy, learn from poetry, learn from performing arts. Open your minds to people who are different from you. And then, of course, try to find a sense of purpose in your life in which you can give rather than only take from the world. If you do all these dimensions and finally spend some quiet time with yourself, see, Swami Chinmayananda always used to say, if you don't like your own company, why inflict it on others? So, do a date with yourselves. Find a time of solitude where you are enjoying your own company and do your inner work, do your introspection, because those are most beautiful thoughts. I think I'll stop here. There might be the audience might want to engage in some conversation. So
Anilji, before that, what is the book name you referred just now about your Japanese friend?
I will give it to you, and it's fact lying here. It is written. We were taken to a house of artists there, the martial artists. So I'll give it. It's a Japanese name. Unfortunately, I'll give it to you later. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Right. Thank you. Now we would love to open the floor to the questions from the audience. If there are any questions, you can write it in the chat box. Yeah, all right. Anilji, we see that Swadharma refers to one's own path or duty, or even realizing the unique role that each individual is meant to fulfill. And mindfulness can be a great catalyst in cultivating that inner clarity that you have touched upon. So, if you could share some examples from your corporate experience where leader mindfulness helps individuals align with their Swadharma.
So, the whole Swadharma is a very deep concept. At the same time, it's a very simple concept. It says that God has given you some unique talent. No human being is like the other. The best knowledge you can acquire is self-knowledge, which means to understand who you are, what your own uniqueness is. And then you ask yourself, what am I inspired by to make the world better? See, each one of us has altruism in our heart. Sometimes we are embarrassed by the goodness of our own hearts because we dream about making the world better. But we are too scared to take responsibility for the goodness in our own hearts. We say, no, what if this doesn't work? These kind of thoughts strike. Who am I just to solve the hunger problem of my country? And these kind of thoughts come. What can I do? I'm just one person. The system must change. Huh? And we then come out with speeches. Desh ko badalna hoga. Actually, what it simply means is if I deeply care for something, I begin to take the first steps. So Swadharma only means recognize what you are good at, recognize what you are drawn towards, and find a way to leverage what you are good at for something you are drawn towards. And every day, it may be something very small, but find a way to experience that. Now, so many people have created their own life's work based on that. So many entrepreneurs that, for example, my friend Harsh Mariwala from Marico. When he was a young man, he was in the family business. He had this dream that I want to create something which is uniquely Indian and an Indian brand. There are too many multinationals that are operating in FMCG industry. And I want to create something very special. So, and he was a pretty creative person and a very wonderful learner. So I experienced, when this idea was still in his head, I was with him in IIM Ahmedabad where we were together for a conference and he was talking to me. I found that childlike curiosity in Harsh to learn and to explore himself. As he was telling me, because he was so fascinated in building this unique organization, every weekend he used to travel from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. There was a professor called Professor Labdi Bhandari, who was quite a genius in marketing. He would go and spend a weekend with the professor every week because he wanted to just absorb everything, because he had this huge inner inspiration to do something significant, to serve. And in him himself, he found that he is a good learner, he is curious, and he is very willing to learn from others. And he utilizes curiosity and learning capacity to making this an Indian brand in FMCG industry, which can shine by itself by the quality of its products, by the purity of its process, and doing that. So I think Harsha has understood this in a very powerful way. So now, of course, he has spent his whole lifetime to create the Marico Innovation Foundation. He has also created a network to develop so many entrepreneurs in the country. So here is a beautiful example of how somebody was paying attention to his inner journey, and that helped him to source tremendous power. And that's why he also is very deeply spiritual in that sense. So that's a specific example I wanted to say. Yes.
Yeah.
I,
Anil Prakashji,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
Gauriji, please go ahead. Then we'll take Anand Prakashji's question. He has
you can
raised.
Yes.
take one Prakashji's first, and I'll end with one question.
Okay, all right. Anandji.
Okay,
Anandji,
thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, a big thank you, Anil, for taking us through this whole journey. Unique idea, very well implemented. Uh, the question which is coming to my mind is, see, we have learned a lot in this whole process of 15 plus weeks. What is something new you learned in this whole process, if you can share? What you
Yeah,
thought
I
that,
think
okay.
I really love, for example, the questions that we do, as you know, an alignment call earlier with everybody. And I'm
Yeah,
fascinated by how each person is bubbling up with new questions they want to explore. So it has made me appreciate the uniqueness of all our co hosts. And I'm very deeply grateful to them because whatever they manage to get out of this program for themselves, I know that by my sourcing whatever my experience was and trying to offer it as an act of service to the people who showed up to listen to it, I think it was just the joy of the power of the questions. So I learned a lot, and it has made me even more convinced that asking the right questions is 100 times more important than giving the right answers. Because really the quality of the conversation depends on the question. So a huge thank you. I always knew that is there, and I simply enjoyed this whole process of absorbing all the questions and wonderful things about how each one of you uniquely, I even in this session, how Gauri came across this, what was
correct,
what was Chitra talking about, what was Shaunak's own interest. So it's
correct.
a great discovery for me to discover all our co-hosts and to build this partnership with them. So I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed learning from their questions. Yes.
And I think this is interesting that so much varied discussion when they got weaved together, something new has come up. Like today, we got answer questions from three different tracks, and then the way you weaved them together, I think that created a completely new value. I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Anand. Thank you.
yeah,
This
Gauri.
I wanted to end with a question which I think cannot be avoided in a session which is about spirituality. Anil, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment for you? It is something for generations, civilization after civilization has sought enlightenment, and in whatever we do in the material world, the ultimate aim or purpose seems to be to know, to be the enlightened self. So, what is it for you, and what is the message you want to leave for us, who are your listeners and who are going to listen to a lot of your videos after this?
So, Gauri, actually, it's a journey, it's a quest. And the quest is to move to the higher from whatever we are engaged in our everyday life, which we get preoccupied with. So, the journey of that inner journey. Now, I'll give you a personal example. When I was in my 30s, I used to sit down for my sadhana every morning for an hour. And I was very deeply committed because I think at that time I was on the peak of my career, and there were many forces, and I was given very senior responsibility at a very young age, and I was traveling a lot, and I needed that 1 hour for myself in the morning, and I used to wake up at 4 a.m. for that 1 hour quietude. As I got older, I learned as Gurudev's, I would then understand what Gurudev said when somebody asked him, how long should he meditate? Should you meditate? He said 24 hours. What was meant by that? That live always in remembrance. Always silently keep thanking that divinity within you. And when you are continuously living in remembrance and continuously in touch with your inner source, that you have found that path of inner happiness. And of course, for a truly realized master, which obviously I cannot claim to be a realized master, I only consider myself very fortunate and blessed that I like to hang around with realized masters. So at every opportunity, I go and spend time with my spiritual teacher, because just to be in their presence invokes the same beautiful experience within yourself. It's not even at that moment the teacher is teaching you something, but just to be in their presence, you get in touch with the same presence within you. So I think I feel very blessed that on that journey that I am on, I feel that inner sense of deep gratitude and remembrance, and that's what I think this is all about. And of course, if one is so fortunate that one does have that so-called peak experience where you can't even describe it in words. So some of us who are in this path, there are some moments in our time, on some parts of our life, on some moments when we feel some extraordinary joy, and which is, we cannot describe it, but that's the nearest one comes to it. But I would just say, otherwise, living in remembrance, living in gratitude is what this is all about. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the last session of the series, and I'm confident. Yeah,
Hi.
any?
This is Vishal here.
Yeah, yeah.
I have one last question for Anil, ji, if I may.
Please,
Please,
Vishal.
please.
Thank you so much.
Can somebody put the spotlight on Vishal? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can. I know.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Vishal.
Yeah. So my question is this: mindfulness also defangs you, because the more you realize things as they are, you have no reason to get angry at anything or anything at all. I mean, I can very well easily understand why a murderer is a murderer, why a saint is a saint, and I don't see any difference between a murderer and a saint. Absolutely none. So mindfulness in a leadership role also means that you naturally become very accepting to folks that are performing, folks that are working very hard, folks that are spending extra time, days and nights and weekends working towards the team, and those who don't and have different considerations. It just falls in place like that. I mean, you can't help it. You just see people and you just know. So to that extent, spirituality and bhakti and all are just the way I view it as it's like, a kid, what grade are you on? If you are in grade 1, or you don't talk about gravity, you don't teach a kid about gravity or calculus in first grade. You teach them how to count. When they grow into middle school, high school, you teach them calculus, and you teach them Newtonian gravity. When they become PhDs, you teach them relativity. And it's just the same world around you. It's just different context in which you're looking at it. Same is true for bhakti. You teach people to pray in front of God, and all these gods are tools. I mean, you throw them, you pray at them. I don't, I don't view a picture of Krishna as anything special compared to a rock. If I put my faith in it, and if I lead towards it, then it's just basically the same thing to me. I mean, it's no really big deal. So it's just really, in terms of, even when I have discussions with folks, my first attempt was to realize what context am I talking with. And no judgments here, but just what context you're talking with. You're talking to some people, they will not understand consciousness and everything coming out of consciousness, or the thought process and how the world came about. Similar is true for in science. The people who will not understand quantum physics and such, and it's just different levels of understanding. But no matter what, mindfulness does defang you. And then at the other end, you do have folks like Steve Jobs, for instance. I know, people at the Valley, I'm basically in the Silicon Valley. Steve Jobs used to walk people out, even without thinking through. He just fired people. He shut the door on you. He's absolutely ruthless, to the point you would think this guy is, unsettled mentally. I mean, he's cruel, but he got the job done. Elon Musk is like that. He's fired a few people who did not like walking around in the factory floor. There was one young guy, very enthusiastic, and he just fired him because he didn't know something. But it creates its own kind of ripples and creates its own kind of thing where people think, oh, now we really have to be on top of the job that we are supposed to do. So there are aspects of leadership where if you are completely defanged, it can also make you ineffective. If Alexander the Great, we call him the Great, if he was very considerate and very dispassionate and very selfless and mindful, he would not go attack other countries and kill so many people and conquer the world. And then, of course, history leads its own way. People change. People who change history oftentimes, folks who are who are extreme. So there's light and there's darkness. What we always talk about mindfulness is light. Fees, but there's the element of darkness there too, and you can argue that that is just as natural, that is just as real, that's just as what existence wanted things to be like. And there's really, depending on which level you're looking at things, it's the way things are. So how do you, in terms of leadership, since we're talking about leadership, how do you reconcile mindfulness and being good with people and understanding their needs and doing things to being totally unmindful? So I don't care about what you're doing. I need this job done in 2 weeks because the company is depending on it, right? Any thoughts on your, from your end in terms of how you compromise between the two? Because I find it myself that I'm generally a very mindful person, and it makes me defanged completely because I tolerate a lot of people for a lot of things. So
yeah, no, thank you very much for raising this question. No, I have worked with some leaders who are extraordinarily unreasonable people, and who, because of their unreasonableness, they also manage to cause great innovation because they ask questions which others have not asked. But people like that, people like Steve Jobs who can get away with that behavior, there's a part of them people are deeply inspired by, therefore they tolerate the other part. So I always tell people that, don't try to copy Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs because you don't have the same genius in you. People will accept an Elon Musk for his idiosyncrasies and also Steve Jobs because people will do that because they are deeply inspired by some other part of their lives. So I would say that each one has to discover their own way of doing things. But one thing I have learned very much in life, if you are deeply compassionate, you will never ignore non-performance. In fact, if you are very compassionate, you will invest time in somebody whom you believe is capable of doing a lot more. And there is also the concept that we say, tough love, right? You are at one level, you deeply love the other person. On the other side, you are very demanding of that person. So because that person is adopting mediocrity. So, to that extent, I'm completely aligned with you if you say, because the easiest path is to say, ignore non-performance. My teacher, Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda, was an extraordinarily demanding person. He would sometimes get very upset with us if we were adopting mediocre standards. But he did it with deep love in his heart. Even when we got admonished by him, we looked forward to his speaking to us in that manner because we said, in that there is an opportunity for us to grow and learn. So when somebody deeply loves, then the person also has a right to challenge you, confront you, and make you go beyond your own comfort zone. So in a practical term, that is there in that sense. So that's what I'd like to say. But I think it is. So thank you very much for asking this question, though. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, so this is the last session of the series, and I'm confident all of us have found all these sessions valuable and insightful. Before closing the session, I would like to ask Anilji to reflect how has been your journey through all these sessions of the series. So if you could touch
Yeah,
upon that.
I'll definitely say that, but there are others who are present here who have gone through the sessions. If they want to share anything about how the journey has been, Asha is here, Visti is here, Minakshi is here, Bridges attended some session. If any of you want to share your experience as a way of closure, it would be nice for us to do that.
I think we can get off the spotlight. We can just have the whole.
Yes, that's right. Yes, thank you. Anybody wants to share anything in response to, because this is the last session of this series? Is anybody moved to share something? Yes, Ravi, my classmate from Central School, Pune. Yeah, go ahead. Dev Road. Please unmute, Ravi. Yeah, you have to unmute. Ravi, you are still muted. Yeah, now you're unmuted. Yeah.
So it has been a good learning experience from a school batchmate, and appreciate the spiritual depth that you have in your understanding of the world. That's very important for me. It's a very learning experience, and I've also been able to correlate, what you talk and what I feel. So somewhere I had a feeling that so our wavelengths do match. सो बचपन की जो बातें हैं वो आगे जाके भी कहीं ना कहीं उनका असर होता है. दैट वाइब्रेशन विच इज देयर इन द स्कूल टाइम, दैट इज कैरी फॉरवर्ड, because I have watched you with your family. I know your father, I know your mother, I know your brothers, I know your sisters, your cousins, everybody, and also the anecdotes and the experiences that you shared in the talks. I have been witness to those. For example, you talked about that program you arranged with the Film Institute. I was part of that program. I attended that program. So like that, so many things. The episodes we described during the school days. So that was a good experience, reliving those moments and then reflecting back in life, that to what level you have traveled and what kind of an achievement you have done, which is praiseworthy. And at the same time, finally, you have devoted everything to teaching and setting up a school with certain principles. And now those principles are being seen in the industry. It is being appreciated. And the children are being molded with those ideas. So I think that has been a very good learning experience for me. I have done something similar in a small way, but I am very happy that I could understand what you have been talking, and I have seen it for last more than 50 years or more. So that was a good experience for me. Thank you very much. I look forward to another series some other time.
Thank you, Ravi.
Anil.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Narendra ji raised his hand. Narendra, yeah.
Hari Om. Thank you, Anilji. I think
Hari Om.
you are a very, very big part of my personal life as well, and contributing a lot, which enables me to kind of emerge and serve rural India better through COD. And I think during all this session, it was tremendous, more of experiential learning, experiential wisdom that you kind of shower on us. So it was great, and all I can say to the salutation and lots of love and pranams to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Narendra from our Chinmaya Organization of Rural Development, the person who's also an alumnus of SOIL and a role model alumnus from our executive program. So thank you,
Yeah.
Narendra.
I think Khurshid wants to talk.
Khurshid wanted to. Yeah. Khurshid wanted to say something.
Ashokan, go ahead. You are muted. Ashokan, you are muted.
Anil, thank you very much. It has been a wonderful session, a series of them. And I particularly like the way in which you have been able to weave, starting from somewhere with all the questions and then bringing step by step to the self-realization and making it a kind of a step-by-step journey. I've known you for the last 40 years, and I've been immensely benefited by your counsels and the way in which you have been able to lead the teams, the organizations, and then give it all. What is very, very importantly, very fascinating for me is that I never found any difference between Anil, the company person, or the corporate person versus Anil, the individual. You've been great to that extent, and you have inspired a lot of us. And thank you very much for being a part of our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashokan. Thank you very much. Thank you, my dear friend and colleague from Aisher for many years. Thank you very much. Yeah, Naushir, go ahead. Naushir, look forward to listening to your voice. Yeah, Naushir.
Go ahead. Go on. What I would like to sum up is, in leadership, it doesn't matter who you are, but what you are. Have you heard me?
Yes, we have heard you. In leadership, it doesn't matter who you are, but what you are is more important. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Naushad. Thank you. Those are very nice words. Yes.
Right. All right. So thank you all for being part of today's session on mindfulness and spirituality. We hope the insights shared today help you connect more deeply with yourself and perhaps brought a bit more clarity to your own inner journey. Whether it was the practice of being fully present, the wisdom of Swadharma, or the power of inner journey, these are not just ideas, they are ways of living. We invite you to carry them with you beyond this space. Thank you all, and thank you to all the wonderful audience who were really mindful in asking the questions and sharing their wonderful feedback. Thank you so much. Happy learning all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I feel blessed to be given this chance to serve, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hari.
Anil, and thank you, entire team, Soil team. Thank you, all co-hosts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hari Om.